Welcome back, one and all, and thanks for sticking around, moving over to our second half of the day. Of course, that means we're going to North America. I got a scary demon looming over my shoulder now, which means that the Shadows are playing here up against Exile in our third set of the day. I'm Dolson, joined by Pretty Hair here on the desk. Should be a fun matchup. Shadows are a team that looked very good in week one.
That's right, and this is a squad I think already announced on Twitter getting picked up by the Hype Unit organization, so this will probably be their last week competing under the banner of the Shadows. Dave will finally be safe from the tyranny of that little ghosty boy looming over his shoulder week in and week out.
No, we didn't see is me knocking the desk the foot off of its axis here because I was so terrified of what's behind me, though. But we'll look at the NA standings prior to starting off this last set of the day here. Of course, Shadows looked very good last week. 5-stack as well. 1-0-2 is the plus-minus, only dropping one map. Shadows up against Sanguine last week. Very contested set. I believe I remember them going down 2-0, winning 3 straight to round that one out. And then, of course, that means Sanguine and Exile round out 3 and 4 here. Another region, though. No 3-0s yet. Could be a very contested area.
We will have to wait another week, I believe, to see that 5-stack versus Shadows matchup. Get our real, indiscriminate number one squad here in North America. A decent amount changed in North America. Not a ton of people getting called up, at least from these squads, but there was a lot of kind of scrambling. Dethroner getting put down into this league, Payne as well, some reorganization of some of the top talent. That's how we get this Shadows team. And you would sort of look at them on paper and say, wow, this is very star-studded. This looks like it could be basically locked down for the number one spot in North America. But that's not how superstar teams always work out.
Now, you'd think, to reiterate their lineup, the Shadows see Hype Unit moving forward. Dethroner, Edgem, T-Mac, Grace, a.k.a.
He better be playing under Payne this week, dude. I'm gonna be pissed.
It's on Grace on the roster, so he might be Grace. And then Tay rounds out their 5. And then Exile on the opposite side. You got Ancient, Bagel out, Aspect almost, and Longshot. And then Frog is the substitute that they could swap in if need be. Without further ado, though, let's take a look at what maps we're not allowed to play on here in our third set of the day. Timber Mill, Fish Market, toss them out. We're not going there. I'm sad about that one. Warder's Gate and Shattered Desert also gone. So, Timber Mill and Shattered Desert, a little sad about, but that's okay. See, I love Timber Mill. Some people hate Timber Mill.
I don't mind seeing Timber Mill either in pro league play. I haven't invested a lot of time into learning it myself and how to play a casual game on it. So, I don't particularly love to get that map. Sure. You love your snipers, though, so I'm sure
I do. I guess that's really what it is. Yeah. I'm very bad at them, but
that's core to the reason.
I like playing them. Map number 1 on the way here. It is Bazaar, so that's actually a map that sometimes gets banned out. I would say more so than some of the other standards, but we're going to get it. Already starting off on Bazaar this time around. Of course, vertical mobility becomes an interesting talking point. Backdoor is a very niche example of that, but particularly when the payload is getting pushed, if you're on the defensive end, you kind of know where that offensive team is pushing from.
Definitely. Unless
they maybe have somebody who can go up and over those gates that will not open for the pushing team around the back side. At any rate, though, you got Ash, Atlas, both off of the board. So a lot of Makoa in set 1, a lot of Khan in set 2. So sort of the third, fourth flex ban is something that started to become a little bit more prominent, I should say, with Genos is ban 2 here for the Shadows. And Makoa rounds it out. So Khan's still available, but so's Torvald.
It's all about what you want to rock with. You mentioned the vertical mobility, the backdoor ability of Bazaar, and the way that Eevee is kind of at the forefront of that. Eevee, solid pocket with Torvald. If you can run it, we've seen VP be incredibly, effective with that combination, even at the PPL level. And last week, we kind of saw that Payne is going to be probably one of the premier EVs in this minor league. So that's where they could be headed. Something that, again, would allude to that is if the Shadows went after Leon in this next pick phase. She does well against the EV. All of the frontliners already picked away for Exile.
See my banners,
and it looks like Shadows might be leaning that way.
And the Torvald Leon stack is something that Penta at the MSI were able to kind of forge into success, notably Erase. Now, of course, in the PPL playing for Virtus Pro, made good use of it, and for good reason. That is a crazy damage combination if you're able to make it work. And actually, I believe they played it on Bazaar to a relative amount of success here. So Shadows starting off very strong, very aggressive. Maeve, maybe the Midnight, clips a little bit of that.
Cassie's still available. They could go that way as well. It would sort of render them pretty immobile, like backlining. Nobody's diving right. They don't have that presence that Maeve's going to have. Still could go for that Eevee. You know, you mentioned the Torvald-Leon combo. Part of the reason Eevee would be good with that is that she has a lot of self-sustain and doesn't need to be pocketed too heavy. And this will be the final pick. The Shadows have to play their final card, deciding what they want to go for. And it looks like it might be that Cassie.
Ask and you shall receive. All right, so in this case, you're looking at Torvald, Leon, Cassie. Do the bubbles still go on to Leon, you think?
100%. Cassie's going to try and chill out in the back, be effective, you know, just from that long distance, poking away. Likely to go big game when you're not really getting in there. Impulse is not very popular nowadays. I think Mewtwo might be one of the last couple of guys that come to mind that still run it. But definitely look for Leon to carry this game and Scout to just be sitting there for midnight. Some
good consistent damage from Victor on Exile, though. Do you think Paper, you give it to Shadows?
I think so, yeah. I think they're definitely a coordinated team that's close enough and is going to be able to operate with Torvald effectively.
Well, they find a comeback win last week to go 1-0 here in the minor league. They look to start it off much the same way on Bazaar today. Game number 1, Casters, take it away.
Let the games begin.
Oh, I didn't know if you wanted me to follow up on that. You seemed.
Oh no.
I thought you were gonna have a whole like Roman Coliseum tirade, but either way, we're here on Bazaar. I feel like I am the luckiest Bazaar caster ever. I think almost every game I've done on Bazaar has been great in some way, or I've just blocked out all the bad ones. But I believe it's more the first way here heading into this map. A kind of defensively sided map. Once you get to that last point, we see a lot of 3-3s, but always exciting.
Yeah, always really exciting to see just not only these compositions, but these game plans come into play on Bazaar. It's not a map you see quite often, but whenever you do get a chance to see it, you see how teams actually like to play the high ground, how they like to play underneath the bridge, when they go on the point, how they take advantage of mistakes, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think going into this, though, I think Nick mentioned it that he thinks Shadows have the upper hand here, and I would agree. I think that Exile, once they locked in the Grover against this Torvald composition, kind of weakened them a bit, because with this double poke Torvald, when you have Grover and a Victor, you're thinking, all right, maybe we'll win these poke duels from across the map, but you're not beating a Torvald-pocketed Leon. Especially when Edge is the one getting those bubbles.
It's going to be very hard for them to try and find some type of opening against this composition that the Shadows have. See Edge already up on the top ropes, applying a few shots to the Victor, but living within an inch of his life. He's taking a little bit too much heat, has to back off behind the corner, look for some out of battle damage healing right now.
Yeah, quick. Bagel still getting some spam here, but Edge peaks. That damage boosted Eminence means he is not long for this world. Pan still controlling this top right side, but again, the Victor, I don't think he's going to be able to win those long-distance trades. All of Exile kind of getting bullied out here, Stefan.
Yeah, especially after that Victor pick, they're forced to back off just a little bit. Not only is one of their members of the team down, but they also lost one of their damages, and you just see just the aggression now that Edgem and the Leanne Torvald combo just has so much utility in itself, positioned in such a good way. For every hit it is they're actually landing on her, doesn't matter because the shield's eating most of it.
Yeah, normally you'd think Torvald is a very aggressive champion. But against this composition, you don't really need to be almost dying right there, getting taken to an inch of his life, barely surviving thanks to the Grover heals. And while they're trading back and forth, advantage would normally be going Shadow's way, but there's some disengage here as the fight might go a little faster with this push on the side.
Being almost dead in that situation, peeking out a little bit too much from that. Yeah, you like that one?
I just did the same one, so I guess so.
I could tell. Anyway, almost having to be up in the top, really just trying to rain daggers upon the Inara. There's not much focus on the point fight as much as it is. Enlightenment just barely misses. Edgem going to go down. He actually ended up walking out a little bit too far, exposing himself a little bit too much to Exile. They actually do end up getting the kill. Whirlwind comes through as well. But that's what it is that I was about to mention, is that, and you can talk about this, of course, is that they weren't really fighting Inara Barrett. They were controlling that high ground.
Yeah, and that's really important for poking the point. Like, look at Shadows. They want to get that high ground to spam down. This is like the longest first point fight I think I've almost ever seen. It's still 75-93. No one's even there to trigger overtime yet. Inara getting pushed back means that we're going to get to that point soon while Payne aggressively pushes over this top right.
And missing that first crossbow bolt is going to be a lot, but it doesn't matter because Bagel does end up going down. Once again, almost being forced to back off. The overpower did come through. The rest of Exile are trying to follow up as best as they can. Grover slowly chucking those axes. Don't worry, buddy, you're going to get him. He's down. Tay is out of the situation for right now. Overtime timer is ticking down, and he does manage to get a kill onto Edgem. Well, that's going to be the start of possibly the first point capture of this game.
Great turn here for Exile. Aspect back on that support role after having to fill in on Blaster last week, finding that finish there. Very slow kill onto that Torball. No one could see it. I was doing my very slow axe interpretation there. 400 damage a chunk when you're that close. Not going to be enough to take him down, but thankfully they do find that kill, which leads to Exile taking this first mid. I thought that was pretty good patient play by them. Good dodge by Almost to narrowly avoid that Enlightenment a little bit earlier. Looks like Shadows might want to get aggressive here on this side. They don't want to let Exile get any footing here.
That's true. Dethroner already coming out of the gate. The gate only opens for the people that are from that spawn, so it's not going to open any enemies. It will open for allies in that case. They are trying to be super aggressive, as aggressive as they can be. Literally, Edgem in a 2v1 right now. Doesn't even need to use the Enlightenment. Nice awareness coming out from him, and now the rest of them going to push for a big game damage coming out as well. Now Edgem and Grace are running them down so well. Maeve forced all the way back, with Barrett being the last one that has to try and get away.
Almost actually narrowly avoiding getting out of that too. Almost is a player who, I guess we haven't talked about him too much, but he's the man of many names. I don't know how many accounts Almost has. I don't know how many different names they've gone by, like Wendy. I can't even remember them all, and I don't need to. With the Throner coming in with a triple seismic crash, but no one can really follow up. Thankfully, Edge does find the angle there as the Throner traps in the con, but he narrowly gets away with the Commander's grab. That doesn't even matter in the end, though.
Crossbow bolt in the back. They do find a kill onto Khan, which that's going to mean a lot for them. Already getting 2 kills super early on into the game. That's going to mean a lot for their positioning and the aggression that we're going to see from the Shadows, as you already see them already pushing up. Grace controlling the high ground, not allowing the flanks to get by unnoticed as well. The overpower is there. Dome Shield, Barrage, Dread Serpent, Enlightenment with the Scout on the horizon. We're going to see a team fight break out here probably really soon.
I mean, with all these ultimates up, though, there's still not a lot of time. I wouldn't be shocked if no ultimates get popped, honestly. Still kind of a slow stalemate. The Shadows giving up a little bit of ground. They can afford to. I mean, they're not super mobile, so they have to recognize when a fight could be going poorly early, and they do. I mean, their Damba barely gets away with his life D-Neck, narrowly evading death there. Still down to 500 HP, some poke taunting. Let's get a little bit of 3P, get an idea of what's going on without having to listen to his team's comms. Settling in here, but I mean, with overtime getting close, a fight's going to break out real soon.
Yeah, this is going to be it. 5 seconds on the clock are remaining. Bagel and the rest of them are looking for a way, any kind of pick. The first person to get a pick is going to be who this team fight actually goes for. They